Start. Welcome to MTG Friends. I'm Ryan.
And I'm Zach.
And we're going to be doing spoilers for Commander Legends.
So excited for this set.
Yes, we are.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
My hype is at an all-time high, especially as we started to get like some early spoilers for this thing. And there was a really serious leak that I followed, but obviously we're not covering it all. But yeah, my hype has just been going up and up and up, and it's so exciting to finally get like some real official spoilers here.
Right. And to clarify, we've decided on our channel that anytime something gets leaked that isn't either MTG's fault or, planned, we're not going to cover it until it comes out legit. So just clarification. Yep. All right, let's jump.
Not directly mistake from Wizards.
Yes, exactly.
We're not going to cover it.
Exactly. All right, so let's jump in.
It turns out too that all those early leaks were actually from stolen cards that were then resold.
Ooh, that's not cool.
It was especially bad. The guy that was spoiling them online actually went ahead and returned them to the factory that they were stolen from. He wasn't the person who stole them. He bought them from someone.
Ah.
So that's pretty bad.
That is pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a felony, maybe?
A little bit. Not on the buyer. He obviously didn't know they were stolen goods. I mean, yeah, it's a little obvious, but technically he has buyer protection there, but whoever he bought them from, that's a felony.
Yeah, that's no good. All right, so let's start in. Frixion Triniform. It's a 9/9/9 artifact creature golem with some crazy text. When Frixion Triniform dies, create 3/3/3 colorless golem artifact creature tokens. And as Zach and I were discussing earlier, it has a new mechanic called Encore. All right, what is Encore, Zach?
So Encore, you pay the cost next to the word Encore, and then you exile the card with Encore from your graveyard. So this is an activated ability from the graveyard. Then for each opponent that you have, you make a token copy of the creature you exiled that has to attack that opponent this turn. If it's able to, it has haste, and then you sacrifice him at the beginning of the next end step, and you can only activate this at sorcery speed.
Okay.
There's a lot to process there, but it's essentially if you take the Unearth mechanic, which is activated ability from your graveyard, put a thing back on the board, sack it, exile it, and if you take Myriad, which is when it does something, you get copies for a turn.
Yeah, and it being on the Triniform for the first time, that means you got 3/9/9 beefy creatures coming at your face.
With haste, I mean, for 12, but it's also just 12 colorless.
Yeah.
Which is, frankly, easier to generate.
Absolutely.
Still a lot. Like, that is still a lot of mana.
Mm-hmm.
But, I mean, 12 colorless isn't as huge of a hurdle as, like, 12 green, 12 blue.
Yeah, that is just something.
And when those 3 9/9s with haste die, you get 9 3/3s left over.
Man,
it's a massive mana investment for a massive payoff.
Yes, maybe a win con for sure with this thing. Cool. Well, let's move on to Liza, Shroud of Dusk. Lisa.
I've been going with Liesa, but Lisa. I'm really not sure here.
Yeah.
But I like the card.
Yeah. Shroud of Dusk. It's a 2 white black legendary creature angel. Rather than pay 2 for each previous time you've cast a spell from the command zone this game, pay 2 life that many times. Flying lifelinker. Whenever a player casts a spell, they lose 2 life. Wow, there's so much going on here.
And she's a 5/5.
Oh, and she's a 5/5. Yeah. So
this is like one of my most hyped cards out of this set so far.
Yeah, I think we're going to definitely do a deck tech on this one because this is some craziness going on.
This feels like the next evolution of a Comball from Kaladesh.
Mm-hmm.
While he's a 3-drop, he only taxes like I think it's instant sorceries or non-creature spells, one of the two. And he doesn't have lifelink, but he gains you some life back. But Liesa here is like super hate card. Like,
yeah.
Your opponents cast spells, they're taking the ping.
Oh, yeah. This really reminds me of, like, Kisic style stuff going on with the paying life, gaining life, lifelink. Yeah, I have a feeling this is going to get seriously levered.
Mm-hmm. The way I see this deck building is you minimize the number of spells you cast by using cards with activated abilities and using lots of life gain.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to just massively punish everything your opponent does. If they want to interact,
it's going to cost them. Yep.
Exactly. Make it really, really painful for them. This is like a Death and Taxes style deck for Commander. And I think the thing that makes Leesa even stronger is the fact that no matter what, she will always be 5 mana.
Yeah, which
There may
is
be some
super
life that
cool.
goes along with that, but she is always 5 mana. And while 5 mana can be a lot, I think the sheer amount of consistency,
Hmm.
being able to say, look, my commander, 5 mana every time.
Right.
5 mana. And you're probably going to play a good amount of life gain in here too to kind of upkeep the spell's cost.
Hmm.
And I mean, plus she has lifelink. This is one of those cards that you want to get out early, you want to get out often, and you want to be able to pay for it every single time.
Yeah.
And knowing that her cost is fixed is a really big deal.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to put this in one of my life gain decks just as one of the 99. So it's that good.
You're going to have the life to pay for it, frankly.
All
Great
right.
card. Really excited to build around this.
Next up is an oldie but goodie in a new form. It's Tevesh Sat's Doom of Fools for 5, and it's got 4 loyalty. +2, create 2/01 black Thrall creature tokens. The Thralls are back. +1, you may sacrifice another creature or planeswalker. Oh, the lore has come back. If you do, draw 2 cards, then draw another card if the sacrifice permanent was a commander, or the ultimate, gain control of all commanders, put all commanders from the command zone onto the battlefield under your control. Tevesh Sat's Doom of Fools can be your commander partner. All right, for those who don't know, Zach, why don't you explain the lore behind Tevesh and why these mechanics are so cool?
So, back in the day, old lore, Urza created a group called the 9 Titans, and Tevesh Sat was a member of those Titans. They were going to try and set off what they called soul bombs in order to destroy Phyrexia. However, once they arrived, Tevesh Sat actually betrayed them and murdered 2 of their own members. So thus the, sacrifice another creature or planeswalker, if it was a commander, blah, blah, blah. But the plot twist, Urza knew that Tevesh Sat was going to betray them, and he needed one of the Titans to essentially be sacrifice fodder for his soul bombs. So he willingly took Tevesh Sat along, knowing he would betray them, because it would give him the moral ground to say, well, then I'm going to kill you, and I'm going to use your life as fuel for the soul bombs. AKA Urza was a bad guy. But it's so cool to finally see Tevesh Sat on a card. We now have 4 of the 9 Titans on cards. And I just think that's immensely, immensely cool to finally have.
Yeah, and superb artwork.
Beautiful. Both versions of the artwork are really, really great.
Yeah.
This is the full art alternate one, but the original is like just as good. They're both really, really beautiful.
Yeah.
If you want to know more about the 9 Titans, check out the wiki. It'll have a lot of information there. You can read some of the really old books too, but those can be kind of hard to find these days.
Gotcha. All right, next up is Mnemonic Deluge. 6 blue. Oh, that is spendy.
Woo!
Exile. Yeah, what a cost right there. Exile target instant or sorcery card from a graveyard. Copy that card 3 times. 1, 2, 3. You may cast the copies without paying their mana cost. Exile Mnemonic Deluge. Boy,
it's spendy.
Yeah.
But it's good.
Yeah, it's very good. I don't know how playable this card is, but you could probably cheat this out a little bit.
You're probably not going to play this in anything but a mono blue deck.
Yeah, that makes sense.
3 blue pips is a lot. 9 mana is a lot. Like 2 colors max. But if you've got a spendy enough instant or sorcery card in your graveyard, whoa.
Yeah, that's going to make
Can you imagine an expropriate?
Oh, boy. Yeah, this could be super jank if you do it in the right way.
Another thing I'd like to point out, too, is unlike with most copy spells that happen several times, you cast all 3 of the copies. So you get 3 additional cast triggers. So, like, if you're copying a card with Storm, for instance, you're going to get a Storm trigger every single time. And you're going to get those copies.
Yeah.
I think this would be, like, especially insane with a card like, what is it called? Oh, man, it's the Mind's Desire, because that's already 6 mana. Which is, 6 mana sorcery, shuffle, exile the top card of your library, and play that without paying its mana cost. So you're going to cast Mnemonic Deluge. You target Mind's Desire, exile Mind's Desire, you cast Mind's Desire. You got 2 storm triggers already, so you get 2 copies of Mind's Desire. Those resolve. Then you cast the next copy, you get 3 copies of Mind's Desire, and then you cast your 3rd copy, you get 4. So you're getting what? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12 copies of Mind's Desire for 9 mana. That seems reasonable.
That seems pretty crazy, is what that seems.
Yes, it does.
All right, so it'll be interesting to see how people use this card in the future.
Yeah. I think it's crazy. I don't know how playable it is. I really don't.
Yeah.
But I think it's cool.
All right, so next is Serafit Greatsword. Both Zach and I are not super impressed with this card, so we're just going to blast through this real quick. It's a 2-drop, equip, artifact. Equipped creature gets +2/+2. Whenever equipped creature attacks the player with the most life or tied for most life, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying that's tapped and attacking that player. And we're not so excited because it's equipped 4. So this thing costs 6 just to get going.
Yeah, this was a card that I was hyped about until I got to that equip cost, because +2/+2, fine. Make an angel if you happen to, hit this hoop. Great, cool. I, occasionally get a free creature. Equip 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, unless you can deeply reduce the cost of this equip, this card is not worth using in the slightest.
Yeah, and ever since Zendikar Rising came out, we've been incredibly spoiled with equipments that come into play and auto connect. What is the auto equip? Blah. Yep. And
plus, we already had Embercleave that did the same.
Exactly.
We're so used to it now, and I mean, we even just got Double Masters that has a living weapon.
Yes.
So we've been seeing a lot of equipment that's on the brain that is equipping for free, and so this feels especially
bad. So we're just gonna move right on. Our next up is Sphinx of the Second Sun. It is a 6 blue 6/6 Sphinx with flying. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, you get an additional beginning phase after this phase. That is amazing.
Absurd. I'm happy to pay 8 mana for this. This card is wild.
So that
you get an untap, an upkeep, and a draw after combat.
Yeah. So
all your mana is up, ready to use. You get an additional upkeep, which means any upkeep triggers you have are triggering again. Whoo!
Yeah, and not to mention it's got a 6/6 body to boot. So
yeah, it's a big boy. I mean, look at that art. He is a big boy.
He's a big boy. So
he's a beefy boy.
So it'll be exciting to try to shove this into some of the commander decks for sure.
Oh.
All right, Siani, Eye of the Storm. It's a 4-drop flyer. Djinn Monk. Wow, a monk that's a Djinn. That's interesting. 3/2 flyer. Yeah. When Siani, Eye of the Storm attacks, scry X, where X is the number of attacking creatures with flying, and it's a partner.
Yeah, super cool card too. I don't think it's anything ridiculously OP or anything. But I think it goes really, really well with some of the existing flying little archetypes we've got, and it really lets you set up your deck well. I think a friend of ours is really going to love this card as an include in the deck for her Iniaz deck.
Oh, yeah, right.
Because that already cares about flyers, and this essentially just lets you go, I'm going to scry a whole bunch of cards and get the exact thing that I need next turn, too. So while I don't see this helming as many decks, especially at 4 mana, I think it's an impactful player in Azorius or above flyer focus decks. I think it's a cool card.
Yeah, it doesn't cost too much, although a 3/2 body isn't super exciting to me.
Nope. It's one of the uncommon partners, so my expectations for those are a little lower, but granted, our next 2 cards are 2 more uncommon partners, and they're pretty sick.
Speaking of which, Helena, Kisic Ranger for 4, 3/4 reach. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2. When you do, that creature deals damage equal to its power to target creature, and it's a partner. And this is exactly what I would expect from a green card.
Yeah. I love that it's not even a full-on fight. It's just a deal damage. Yeah. So your creature isn't even at risk. It comes in and it assaults.
Assaults. Yes. Well, and then it combos up with Elena Kisic Trapper for 5/4/3 first striker. Yes. Add an amount of red equal to the greatest power among creatures you control that entered the battlefield this turn, and it partners with some flavor text that says, Helena and I have a bond that will never be broken.
Yeah. Super cool. I love that they finally printed these 2. They are from a story from Innistrad way back in the day. I think it was 2016 was when these were first mentioned in a story.
Gotcha.
But it's a shame that they don't have partner with, because like these two feel very connected.
They do.
But granted, they just have regular partners, so you can put them together. You just don't have to. If you want to put Helena with, Siani, who we just talked about, you totally can. It's just Helena's going to be really upset.
Yes, exactly.
But they work in tandem really well. Helena generates the mana that you need to activate Helena, gives you some extra mana to play around with as well.
Yes.
I think it's super cool and very flavorful, and also reasonably powerful, especially for one of these uncommon legends. That's a card I'm happy to
Absolutely. All right. Maelstrom Colossus is an 8-drop 7/7 with Cascade. It's a golem.
Yep.
So when you cast a spell, exile cards from the top of your library until exile a non-land card that costs less. You may cast it without paying its mana cost. Put the exiled cards on the bottom of your library in a random order.
Yes, indeed.
I've only really had bad experiences with Cascade when I'm playing against somebody, because it was that sliver deck where it's it's like, oh. So you sit there and you wait for them to cascade, which is they go through their library and But in this ilk,
especially because first sliver is like an endless chain of cascading.
But in this ilk, this looks like it would be interesting and fun, and it's a common.
This set seems to have a decent number of common cascade, but at a higher mana cost. There's a counter spell that we didn't include on this list because frankly it's kind of bad. But it's a counter spell with cascade, but it costs 5 mana. And granted, it costs 5 mana, so you can cascade into a 4-drop or below. But like, it's interesting.
Yeah, this has got a lot of wiggle room for the cascade mechanic for sure.
Yeah. Cascade is another one of those returning mechanics alongside partner. Then we also have Encore, and then there's one additional mechanic that we'll talk about shortly.
Well, and again, this is colorless, so you can do a lot more in the colorless realm. So we might actually see this in some fun casual decks, I would think.
Yeah, maybe like a budget deck that wants something big, beefy, and maybe a free spell off the back of it.
Yeah.
Still a 7/7, and you're getting a free spell.
Farizzle. I just
Onward
and upward. Briar Blade Adept, also a common 5-drop 3/4. So those stats so far aren't very exciting to me, but let's read the text. Whenever Briar Blade Adept attacks, target creature an opponent controls gets -1/-1 until end of turn. But then it has Encore for 4. Exile this card from your graveyard. For each opponent, create a token copy that's attacking that attacks that opponent this turn if able. They gain haste. Sacrifice them at the beginning of the next end step. Activate only as a sorcery.
Yeah. I included this one as another example of what Encore is able to do. Encore really... the cards with Encore really want to have one of 3 things. They want to have an enter the battlefield effect, an attack trigger, or a leave the battlefield effect. And we've already seen a leave the battlefield effect. So here's an example of an attack trigger one, because those 3, 2 or 1 tokens that you make, or more if you're playing a really big game, are going to attack. They are required to if they are able to do so. And so having attack triggers on these cards is another really cool way to get some bonus value out of Encore. Now also, the Encore effect on this card actually costs less than the main card. It is 5 mana to play one, but it's only 4 mana to get 3 of them.
I would have loved to see this card as a 4-drop with Infect.
Oh, that would have been vile.
But then it probably would have been an uncommon, or maybe even
that would have been like a
rare.
rare at that point, because you're getting 3 of them out of nowhere. And granted, they can't hit the same dude, but like, that's
Can you imagine? Can you imagine that with Infect?
Oh, so close. Yeah. If we'd given it Infect, I probably would have gone it deals 1 damage to a creature rather than -1/-1.
Well,
then you get a permanent
counter.
counter.
Infect is all about -1/-1 counters.
Oh yeah, exactly. So that's why you would have Briarblade deal the damage.
Oh, right.
Because the -1/-1 is just temporary, but if it deals the damage, then it puts a permanent -1.
That's true. So yes, we're both
a complete redesign of this card. It'd be really cool.
We're both thinking the same thing. All right, Rebic, let me start that again. Rebic, Architect of Ascension for 4/3/4. It's a legendary creature, uncommon, Artificer. Artifacts you control have protection from each converted mana cost among artifacts you control and its partner. Wow, artifact protection. Oh,
fascinating. Like, what an interesting way to go about artifact protection too. Play artifacts, they're protected from the CMC of your artifacts. So you really want to diversify your board.
Yeah. And I totally could see this as a rare. I mean, because that is so playable with the artifact
That's
protection.
very protective. Like, whoa.
Yeah, so that
I'm really impressed by this card.
and thus why we added it to this list.
And it's got another partner very likely coming soon named Glacian, because in the lore, Rebic and Glacian are a pair as well. And Glacian is mentioned right there on Rebic's flavor text. So if we don't get a Glacian, I'd be really upset.
Yeah, we're thinking that's coming. All right, Zat's Will for 5. Boy, this thing is funky. It's an instant. Choose one. If you control a commander as you cast this spell, then you get to do both. Each opponent sacrifices a creature they control with the greatest power, and or exile all cards from all opponents' graveyards, then create X01 black throw creature tokens where X is the greatest power among creature cards exiled this way. Whoa.
Yeah. Great at instant speed. I mean, that initial cost, 5 mana, can be seen as a little steep, but you're getting to edict 3 of your opponents, 3 best creatures on the board that your opponents control. And if you have your commander out, I mean, you get the other one too, and I think that secondary one is also really good. With enough power in somebody's graveyard, you can swarm the board with a bunch of thralls at instant speed, and also at instant speed exile somebody's graveyard.
Right.
You can really mess with people with this card.
And it's control a commander. So if you've stolen someone else's commander, this still works.
Exactly. Super helpful. I love the wording on this.
All right.
And that art.
That art is horrifying. Thorn of the Black Rose, 4/1/3 Death Toucher, common. When Thorn of the Black Rose enters the battlefield, you become the Monarch. Oh, Monarch's back.
There's our 4th returning mechanic.
Yes, Monarch.
So exciting.
Monarch's so fun.
Yep, and again, we included this because Monarch is listed on the card.
Yes.
And it's the only new card that we have spoiled so far that mentions Monarch. All the other ones were reprints, and I thought a new card is more interesting than a reprint.
Absolutely.
None of them have like a ton of need.
Blade.
Though we do know that Marchesa is being reprinted as one of the special like foil rares that you can occasionally get in boosters.
Cool.
There's the etched foil version of Marchesa to look forward to.
Very good. Blade Griff prototype for 5. It's a 3/2 flying. Whenever Blade Griff prototype deals combat damage to a player, destroy target non-land permanent of that player's choice that one of your opponents controls. Political shenanigans in Commander.
Absolutely. I love this card. You can kind of create like a little team up with a friend. There's somebody really threatening. Just point at your buddy and be like, hey, would you be willing to take 3 in order to blow that up? And they'll be like, yeah, sure. And you swing at them, and they take 3, and they get to pick a target and blow it up, and it never cracks back on you. It has to be something an opponent controls.
Which
I think is
very interesting, very cool. All right, Brinolin, the Moon Kraken, 6 blue, 6/8. Oh, that is spendy. When Brinolin, the Moon Kraken, enters the battlefield, or whenever you cast a spell with converted mana cost 6 or greater, you may return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand and partners. This is a very cool card, and it's an uncommon.
Yeah. Very expensive, but it's a cool lore creature that we knew about from Zendikar already, so nice to see this show up on a card. It does go infinite with High Tide Palinchron combo, which is a well-known infinite casts, infinite creature enters effect. And Palinchron does cost more than 6, so technically, if you can pull that off with this out, I mean, you just bounced your opponent's entire non-land board.
And then they're going to have the sad emoji face.
Yeah, and you also probably have an infinite mana at that point, thanks to Palinchron.
They'll look like this.
Exactly. It'll be like you just cast a Cyclonic Rip. Way more.
Cyclonic Rip. Yeah, that's another rage quitting event usually. All right, interpret the signs for 6. We're seeing a lot of blue spells with a lot of mana that's required.
Yeah, this card, Brenolin, was spoiled with Interpret the Signs and that 9 mana card we saw up above. So it looks like they've got like a little sub-theme of converted mana cost high with special
Scry 3, then reveal the top card of your library. Draw cards equal to that card's converted mana cost.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this is pretty cool. I don't think I'd necessarily play it at 6 mana in a normal Commander deck. But I think for the draft and limited formats that Commander Legends is intended to be played with, I think this card's actually pretty cool in it and could get you quite a lot of cards if you've got the right setup.
Absolutely. All right, this one is a fun one. We're going to talk about this a little bit. Krark, the Thumbless 2/2 legendary creature Goblin Wizard. A lot of lore behind this. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, flip a coin. If you lose the flip, return that spell to its owner's hand. If you win the flip, copy that spell, and you may choose new targets for the copy. And it's a partner. And I must say the flavor text because we're about to talk about it. Double or nothing. Go, Zach.
So, we've known about Krark as a character for a long time. Years and years ago, we got an artifact called Krark's Thumb that says if you would flip a coin, instead flip 2 and ignore one of the results. Yep. And then, in Unstable a couple years back, we got a joke card called Krark's Other Thumb. It's an artifact that says if you would roll a dice, instead roll 2 of those, ignore one of the results. And obviously, you don't do that in Black Border Magic, so didn't have to worry about that one. But the flavor text on Krark's Other Thumb says, Krark was the kind of goblin who'd lose his thumb in a wager and come right back with double or nothing. And there it is.
There it is.
So, lore-wise, Krark lost both of his thumbs in bets, but managed to win one of them back by taking a bet that he couldn't get to the center of, I think it was center of Mirrodin and survive, and he did it, and came back, and he got his thumb back, as you can see hanging on his necklace in the art.
Oh, yes. And not to mention
But playability-wise...
yeah, playability is still playable, too, so...
I'm actually psyched about this card because there are certain instants or sorceries you can use with Krark, in my opinion, that lets you win no matter what your coin flip is. And those two types of cards are instants and sorceries with Cascade, which is in the set, or with Storm. Both of those are cast triggers with instants or sorceries, and so you're going to get that effect whether the spell doesn't get to resolve or not.
And I think I might do a deck tech on this one because it's just that much fun.
I'm trying to figure out who to partner it with. So I think I want to wait through the rest of the set, see what its best partner options, how many colors we need to go up to with Krark. But I think he has so much flexibility and there's a ton of directions you can take him. But I think Storm and Cascade are absolutely ways to go here because either you double the spell that you just cast or you get your Cascade or Storm trigger and then still put the card back in your hand to do it again later.
And it's got a little bit of RNG with the flip of the coin, but there's no downside to the flip.
That's fun.
Because you it either goes back in your hand, which it did get cast, so therefore the Storm trigger still happens, or you get to double it up. Sweet.
Now, granted, the only time this is worse is when it's like a instant sorcery that doesn't have like any kind of on-cast effect.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
But you can also get around that with cards like Entwine. You could Conspire. Conspire is the thing I was thinking. Conspire, which lets you copy spells. Cards like Thousand Year Storm, cards like Swarm Intelligence. So I think the best way to build this deck is probably a 2 or 3 color deck with either green or blue, or both. And you want to use lots of when you cast effects so that you're getting benefits whether you lose the coin flip or not.
Absolutely.
But what a cool card. So happy to finally see Krark on a card, especially in one that's as cool as this.
Yeah, and speaking of which, in terms of lore, we have more lore with this card. It is Ghost of Ramirez de Pietro for a legendary creature, Spirit Pirate. It's a 2/3, and this is old school, OG right here. Ghost of Ramirez de Pietro can't be blocked by creatures with toughness 3 or more. Hey, that ain't bad. Whenever Ghost of Ramirez de Pietro deals combat damage to a player, choose target card in a graveyard that has been discarded or put there from a library this turn. Put that card into owner's hand. And it's a partner.
Thank you, Zoro. Thank you. Super cool card, though. This is a new version of Ramirez de Pietro, as you probably could tell by the name. That's a card from the original Legends set, so it's kind of cool that in Commander Legends we get a new version. He lost 2 of his colors, so he's just blue. But what I really like about this card is less that it's like seems inherently powerful in its face, and more that it's really open-ended. I think this has a lot of different ways to build it, and while it may not be the strongest, having partner opens up a lot of flexibility for it, and I just find it really interesting.
Yeah.
Not sure where to go with it if I wanted to make a build, but I like that I don't.
Very interesting. I like it too.
Yeah.
And cool artwork as usual.
Yep. So the cards, we're going to mention 1, 2, 3, 4 cards after this. These were cards that we knew about 2 months ago, but we're going to just really quickly discuss them here as well.
Keeper of the Accord for 4. It's a 3/4 human soldier. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more creatures than you, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, if that player controls more lands than you may search your library for a basic plains card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. I'm surprisingly excited about this card.
Yeah, this is a really excellent card for white. It needs both of these things. You're getting creatures, you're getting lands. Who can't love that? And granted, it's only a catch-up mechanic, but if somebody's ramping like crazy, Keeper of the Accord is guaranteeing you're getting an extra land, and it comes in tapped. You know, you're not putting it into your hand. You get that card into play.
Pretty cool.
And those soldiers are really nice too. Every time somebody's ahead of you, bam, you're going to get a little bit of extra help every single turn. Very powerful, very understated card. I like this a lot.
All right, Sengir the Dark Baron. It is a 6-drop 4/4. More lore behind this one. Vampire Noble, flying. When another creature dies, put 2 1/1 counters on Sengir the Dark Baron. Whenever another player loses the game, you gain life equal to that player's life total as the turn began and a partner. I would have been totally fine with just the 1/1 counters on this. Then it's got this extra stuff.
It's a super cool, like, updated version of the really old Baron Sengir, who is a super important lore character, who's been involved with characters like Faraz and Sarah, and he is kind of a vampire lord. If you've ever heard of, Sengir vampires, he's their progenitor. He has a whole family, but his original card is really, really, really bad. It's 8 mana for 1. But what's interesting about him is his original card had a weird type of plus counter. It says whenever a creature dealt damage by Baron Sengir this turn dies, put a +2/+2 counter on Baron Sengir. And then he can tap to regenerate a vampire. So I like that when another creature dies, you put 2 +1/+1 counters on him to kind of mimic that old school effect. But that when a player loses the game thing is insane. You can actually gain like a ridiculous amount of life with this if you kill somebody with commander damage.
Oh, yeah.
Because commander damage happens at 21 points from a single commander. So hypothetically, if you get your Sengir big enough, you could hit somebody with 40 life for 21 and then gain 40 life. Granted, that's probably never going to happen, but it could.
We can always strive for that. And as you pointed out, the original artwork of the original card was the same artist that did this one, right?
Correct. This is the special promo that you were supposed to get if you played in a store event for Commander Legends. I don't know how they're going to be giving this card away now that store play is suspended through January. But I love that they managed to get in contact with the OG artist and get him to come back and do a promo art. It looks so good. So good. And just what a really cool way to call back to the original Sengir by going, hey, you drew the original. Come on back, buddy. We want you to be.
And MTG, this stuff is not lost on us. We do appreciate these little gems buried within all of this.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, this is a reprint.
Next up, we have 5 cards. No, this is
not a reprint.
This is a brand new card. We have 5 of these. We're only going to show this one, which is Rejuvenating Springs. But in the Battle Bond set, we got 5 cards that are called Crowd.
That's right.
Essentially, they enter the battlefield untapped if you have 2 or more opponents and tap for 2 colors. So in Commander, these are essentially untapped duels without basic land types. Here in Commander Legends, we are getting the other half of that set.
Gotcha.
So here's the green-blue one. You're going to get the other 4 that we did not get in Battle Bond as well. And all of these just show the plane of Kylem again from Battle Bond. It's really cool. Good flavor text on all of them.
Absolute mundo. All right, this is a very interesting one. It's a 5-drop 3/3, which, I don't know about those stats, but it is a common shapeshifter. If the Prismatic Piper is your commander, choose a color before the game begins. The Prismatic Piper is the chosen color, and it's a partner. Whoa.
So let's go through this. If you may notice, down at the bottom, it is a common, and yet it has the hollow stamp. What's going on here? Also, you may notice that the rarity is listed as an S and not like a C or a U or an R or an M. So here's the deal. The Prismatic Piper is a basic commander. In a draft, if you're playing Commander Legends in a draft or limited, if there is not a commander that you like that you choose to play, you have access to as many Prismatic Pipers as you may need to give yourself 1 or 2 commanders. So let's say you draft a bunch of black and green, but you only end up with a green commander. You can choose to just take a free Prismatic Piper, partner it with your green as long as that green one has partner, which only green legends in the set should. And you can choose black or any other color you want. So Prismatic Piper is essentially the way to make sure that you have access to one of your colors.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. It's not supposed to be powerful. It's a 5-mana 3/3. Odds are you probably won't be playing it unless you have some extra mana laying around. But it entirely exists as a way to ensure that the player has a way to play their cards.
Very cool.
Yeah. And that finishes up day 1 of our commander spoilers, I believe.
Well, thanks for tuning in, guys. Hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, if you're new to the channel. We will continue these spoilers to the end of it, and then we will most likely, I shouldn't say most likely, we will be doing deck techs on a few of